Welcome back
Oh,
to A+ Parents, and I have a special guest today. It's one of our students, Jeremiah, and Jeremiah Kennedy. He lives in Oregon. He's in what's called Albany, Oregon, which is kind of funny because when I hear Albany, I always think of New York, right? But this is actually in Albany, Oregon. He's an 8th grader, and he's been homeschooled his whole life. He's got 3 siblings. So he's got an older brother who's in high school who's been homeschooled, and then 2 twin sisters that are a couple years younger than he is, and they're homeschooled as well. So I'm going to have him tell you a little bit about his story, some of the things he's into today, and his experience with working with us at Mr. D Math. So it's really great. So first, Jeremiah, it's so fun to have you here. Thanks for being here, and
yeah.
welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, we're delighted to have you here. So I know you're a sports guy, so you play soccer and you play baseball. We talked a little bit about that. So, tell me, in soccer, what position? Do you have a favorite position that you play?
I normally like playing forward or striker, whatever you like to call it.
Okay.
And yeah, I played that, except in 1 year I played indoor soccer, which is like soccer, but it's more compact and there's walls. So it's
Right.
like a hockey ring, but with grass, basically. So
Right.
in that I played more defense during that, defense and offense. But I
Gotcha.
normally play striker.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. So indoor soccer, I think, tell me if this is right. When you're playing indoor soccer, if the ball really doesn't go out of bounds, it can bounce off the wall and come back in, and you guys keep playing, or do they call it out of bounds?
No, it can hit the wall and go back in, except if it hits the net, which is like really high up, like if it
Right.
hits the roof, then it's out.
Then it's out.
So if
Okay.
you just don't drop kick it super high, then
Right. Oh, that kind of sounds fun. See, that would be more my way of playing soccer because I don't kick the ball very straight when I kick it. So I would need the wall to kick it so it comes back in and then I can kick it again. Plus, I don't have to chase it. When you guys see you kick the ball and it goes out of bounds and you got to chase it down, that's a lot of running. But for you, that's great because you're a soccer player, baseball player, and you play in the outfield, which means you got to be able to run pretty quick. That's awesome. And you started in the last year, you started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is super cool. How's that going for you? How's your Jiu-Jitsu classes going?
it's good. It's going really good. Both Luke, Hope, and Faith, my all my siblings do it, and my dad, except for my mom. My mom doesn't do it, and it's really fun. I hope to get my next belt, which is like I think the yellow belt or the gray belt soon. But the thing about the jiu-jitsu is it takes at least 15 years to get your black belt.
Wow. Okay.
And yeah, so my dad, he helps teaches some of the younger kids in the class. Like he's one of the people who helps teaches, and it's just really fun together. And get her rolling is like basically sparring. It's called rolling, and it's
Okay.
really fun.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. Well, very good. That's exciting. And so is that what you want to get your black belt? Is that something that you want to do in the future?
Yeah, definitely. It's just gonna take a very, very long time.
That's okay. I know. Yeah. It's kind of funny. It's like for me now, when I think about 15 years, I'm like, well, I'm kind of older now. 15 years doesn't seem like that much. But when I was younger, 15 years felt like that's never going to happen, right? That seems like forever away. So, all right, very cool. So you got into Mr. D Math, and you sent me a funny story about this, that you and your mom, you used to struggle. Like you were working on math like 2 hours a day, and it just weren't getting it. So when you started our program, you started with our pre-algebra course doing the self-paced course. And now this year, you're doing one of our live classes, Algebra 1, with Mr. Henderson. So he's funny. But tell us what happened. When you started using our program, what did you notice that was different for you?
Well, when I started the self-paced, you had obviously the videos that helped explain it. So basically, with the textbook that we used to do, my mom would just have to like explain it to me. But having a video, it was very helpful. And then when we got to like do the live classes, that was even with Mr. H, it was really, really helpful. Like I haven't used the extra help sessions yet, but so yeah, it's definitely really good getting to have somebody explain it. And then the coursework it explains it so much better than the last one did. And it's also really fun because in algebra, there's one part in like section 8 where you get to play the game.
That's right.
Yeah, that part
Yep, I love that part. And you know what's great is like we do like right now, like students that are taking pre-calculus, right? And they've done algebra 1 and algebra 2 and geometry and then pre-calculus. And we'll tell them, okay, it's time to play the game. And they still remember what it means to play the game. So we'll have to, you know, and I call it the multiply add game. So that's what I love the game. It's kind of fun. So that's really cool. All right. So as a homeschooler, here you are, you've been doing homeschooling your whole time. And if you know, you were telling me that, yeah, you also are part of a co-op. So tell us a little bit about what do you do at your co-op?
So at the co-op, the classes we take are English, science, history, and Bible. And then they also have 2 electives that you can take. Like there are many electives, but you only get to pick 2. And this year I took student leadership, which is like really fun because you get to choose the spirit days. Like it could be anything, like pajama day where everybody wears pajamas, and then woodworking where I made like a bowl and a spatula. And then this year and this semester I'm taking logic and drama. Yeah, drama.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's very cool. And it's funny because logic and drama, sometimes you don't think they go together very well. But if you're going to be dramatical, right, you need to be logical. Otherwise, everybody will think, he's just being all dramatic, right? It's like, no, there's actually some logic behind the drama. So that's very cool. Good for you. So I know when we first were talking just before we started the recording, I was sharing with you about when I first started Mr. D Math, the first year that we did classes was back in 2010. So kind of crazy, right? So it was like a long 13 years ago, almost enough time to get a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? So from the time that we first started, and there was a local co-op in the area where I was living at the time in Sarasota, Florida. And I went to the co-op because I was ready to get students and how we were going to do that. So I went to the co-op and I said, hey, you know, I have this math program. And the first year we just did pre-algebra and algebra 1. And I said, you know, I would love to be able to do math at the co-op. Would you guys be interested in that? And they told me no. It was just amazing, right? And we find out oftentimes that many co-ops, and I hear this a lot from people that run co-ops, that they don't offer math. And sometimes it's just hard for people to figure out how to offer it. Sometimes it's like everybody's in trying to figure out what course they're supposed to be in if you've got a group of students all in the same group, and how do you make all that work? So what I did instead was I said, well, I'll just start my own group, and I made my own co-op, but my co-op just had math in it, right? And so we started with just 20 students way back when, all the way 13 years ago. And then it was a couple years later that the very same co-op came back to me because our program kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger with math students in it. So then they came back and they said, would it be okay if you do your math program here at our co-op? I was like, sure. So that's what happened. And you want to know, it's really great. You know, the teacher, when we started doing the math classes at that co-op, you'll never guess who the teacher was, because it wasn't me, because I was actually not in the Florida at that time. But guess who the teacher was who was doing all the math classes at that co-op?
Who?
Mr. H.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? And then Mr. H was doing those classes there, and we had co-ops in Sarasota and in Tampa and in south part of Sarasota in an area called Venice, Florida. So we had all these different co-ops going on, and Mr. H was doing all of them. And then Mr. H, we kept working, and then he came and he started doing online classes with us. And then we brought in some more teachers to do the co-op. So pretty funny how all that happens. But yeah, so it does happen. We do hear that from time to time, that with the co-ops, oftentimes there's not a math program, but then we help co-ops, if they want to have a math program, we help them train teachers and show them how to make the program work for them. So super cool. All right. So what is it? So you kind of talked a little bit about, you know, about the program, and that you like about, you know, having the live class and the way that things are, you know, that the way the instruction is done. And you mentioned our help sessions. And so sometimes people don't know about our help sessions. So we do 3 days a week where if you got a question, you just come to the help session. You can come in and ask questions, which is kind of cool too. So is there anything else for you? Like what really kind of, like, there's playing the game in chapter 8, by the way, I just love that, because factoring is such a cool concept to learn in math. Is there anything else? Do you ever participate in our monthly contests? Do you like those?
Oh yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
Tell me.
Yes, I know. I do I at least submit an answer every time. I've won once. It was actually the one where you submit a video.
Ah, very good. Was that this year or last year?
this year.
Okay, very good. Oh, good. Well, I looked at all of them. I'll have to go back and watch yours again too. So cool. Congratulations. Yay. Well, wait. So if you won, what prize did you get for that?
I got runner up, so I got $50.
$50. Bring it on, man. Congratulations. That's pretty cool as a runner-up prize to still get $50. Did you get to come to the, we had that event with Brent Daniels. Did you get to come see that too? He's a
Oh
music.
no, we were gone that day.
You're gone. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, we're going to talk more about him too. So in upcoming episodes too. Okay. So you've been homeschooled your whole life, right?
Yep.
What do you like about homeschooling?
The freedom, because if you're post school, you can only really go on, like, I guess, going out of town during like the short weekend, or during spring break or summer or winter. Except with homeschooling, like, you can just do a lot of your school one week, and then next week, like, you can go on a vacation or go to like different homeschooling things like a co-op. We also, speaking of the freedom you get out of that, we go to like this thing at the YMCA that's like only for homeschoolers, because it's earlier in the day, and it's really fun. So
That's awesome. When you go to something like that, are there other homeschoolers, or is it just everybody from your co-op, or do you see more homeschoolers that are maybe from another
it's a
co-op?
ton of random homeschoolers.
That's cool. That's very cool. Okay, so here's the freedom you have in being homeschooled, right? Which means that if you've got all this freedom, what are you doing with that? It's kind of like when you're not, when you're outside of your homeschool day, what does that look like for you? What's life look like for you?
It's definitely a lot of sports, because Jiu-Jitsu is 2 days a week, and then like starting at baseball, that's going to be basically every day. And then our 3D printer, we have a 3D printer, and we print. It takes a while each day, but we took this short CADing program. CADing is where you can like design your own stuff, so you can like design your own objects and print them, and that's one thing we spend a good amount doing.
Wow, that's cool. Okay, I actually know you're into Legos, right?
Yeah.
Can you do a Lego on a 3D printer? Have you ever tried to do that?
I have. My brother 3D printed this boat that like had Lego pieces on it, because you can basically do anything that fits. That's not like super big, that fits on the platform. You can print basically anything out of plastic.
Very cool. And how hard is it to learn to work and use a 3D printer? Is it hard to do?
Because there's definitely a lot of troubleshooting, but all you have to really know is how to troubleshoot when it gets jammed, or the nozzle size and the temperature, but it's pretty simple.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I know you're a sports guy, right? You're into Legos, into 3D printing. You're doing drama now and taking that logic class, which is really awesome. Do you what would you say, like, like hobbies or kind of special talents? What would you say about you? Like what kind of things are you like, kind of like your special talents for yourself?
One thing that I can do that not a ton of people can do, I've never like Googled what percent of, but I can solve a Rubik's Cube pretty fast. My dad showed me how, because he didn't explain it super well, so I just Googled it and then I figured it out, and then I was able to narrow it down to like under a minute. 40 seconds is my record.
That's your record? Wow, that's amazing. That's really cool. The whole thing, you can do the whole thing in 40 seconds. Wow, that's awesome. Okay, wait, there was a video, a student made a video that had Rubik's Cube in it. Was that yours? When you made your video this year? I'll have to go back and look and see, because I
don't think so, unless it was like somewhere in the background. That wasn't me.
Yeah. Okay.
Mine was a song.
Oh, okay, good. All right. I'm going to go back and listen to it again. So that's awesome. Very cool. All right. And so let's look, like, so here you're a homeschool student, right? Would you say there's things that, obviously you talked about being able to, the freedom and the travel, but are there things that you think are possible for you as a homeschool student that wouldn't be possible if you were going to a public school or private school?
So you're saying like stuff that, well, as I was saying, like the thing at the YMCA, like
Right.
there's a lot of like little meetups that homeschoolers get to do that public schoolers can't do, because like the swim gym. We used to do this basketball thing where, sorry, not basketball, dodgeball thing.
Okay.
I think it was also on a Thursday. Every
Right.
Thursday, we'd go play basketball, and then yeah, that's this kind of going back to the freedom that homeschoolers have that public schoolers wouldn't.
Right. That's really great because, sometimes people think that that if you're homeschooled, you're kind of like at home all day long and you don't socialize, you don't get out, you don't get to talk to people, but you're not, you don't have that kind of life at all. You're out and
I,
seeing people all the time.
yeah, a lot of people think that homeschoolers or public schools especially thinks like, oh, you're a homeschooler, you're probably like socially awkward and stuff.
Right.
But like I definitely socialize a lot because the co-op helps, and then all sports helps.
Right.
So yeah.
That's right. And here you are doing a podcast with me. And so you're definitely not socially awkward because you're doing great, which is awesome. Well, let's see. Let's look here. What do you think for you? Do you have plans for the future? Like, after your high school years are over, what are you planning on doing?
I've been thinking about, I actually have been thinking about that a lot recently about what I'm going to do for like a career, I had a few different options. I was thinking about doing something like more like coding maybe, because, definitely really like, computers. Computers are very, very cool. And then I was also thinking maybe being like, no, yeah, I haven't thought about this ton. Maybe being a pilot, like a commercial pilot. I thought about that career path too, but I haven't thought about it a ton.
That's okay. And here's what's great. I have a friend and he's a college professor, and we have him sometimes come to one of our other classes, and he comes in and he's a guest speaker for the class. And he says something really kind of cool, because what he said was that, for students, oftentimes we think that when you go to college, you're supposed to have it all figured out, what you want to do, what your job's going to be. And he said something really awesome. And he said, sometimes college is really so that you can find out what it is that you really want to do with your life. And so you can come in there with all kinds of different ideas and maybe some thoughts about, yeah, kind of interested in this, but college is the place where you can start to look and see, well, what actually is possible there. So, that you're kind of looking right now, looking like, well, I'm thinking about it, but I don't really know for sure. Totally great. So it's good, because actually, if you didn't know for sure and you're kind of looking, there's a lot more possibilities that way than if you already knew, right? So that's good. All right, so let's take a look at, you get out and people know you as a homeschooler, and they know your family as a homeschool family, right? If you met a young person your age, or a year or two older or younger, and they were saying to you, they're saying, hey, Jeremiah, I'm thinking about homeschooling. What advice would you give to somebody that is considering being homeschooled?
So that's a great question. Homeschooling is like, I'd probably, if they're like, I don't know, my age or younger than me, I definitely tell them that homeschooling, like, you get all the benefits of, or you get like most of the benefits from public school, because like my parents have definitely done a great job raising me, to be able to understand what's out there in the world. But homeschooling is just like, the opportunities you get are just really great, and it's really fun. Definitely like getting to like, because there are like some people who've said like, my teacher knows my child more than I know my child.
Right.
But getting to like hang out with my mom and my dad a lot more from being homeschooling is definitely really fun.
Oh, that's very cool. Okay, so you mentioned something about your parents and how they've raised you, and they're doing a great job. So, it's kind of fun, because I like to ask young people this, right? So, is there anything you want to thank your parents for allowing you to be homeschooled?
Oh yeah, I don't. Yes, that like, thank you, mom and dad, for like making me homeschool, because like if I ever have kids one day, they're definitely gonna be homeschooled. I'm gonna be very adamant about that, like, because I would do really bad in public school,
I gotcha. Oh, very
but being
cool.
homeschooled is just so great.
And when's the last time you told them thank you?
Um, I think about, I'm gonna be completely honest here, it's probably like 2 months ago.
Okay, well, so I'm going to give you a bonus homework assignment. Okay. Are you ready?
Okay.
Here
yeah.
it is. Make sure you give your mom and dad a big hug today and tell them thank you for letting you be homeschooled.
I
Okay.
will. I will.
Okay, good. That's
You have
awesome.
my word.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate you giving your word that way. That's very cool. Well, awesome, Jeremiah. Well, this has been super fun. And if you know, next year when you're in geometry, you're actually going to be studying even some of the. We have some logic sections in the geometry course, so you're going to get to see more about logic and how that all works too. So, what I was thinking next year, if you'd like to come back and do this again, what do you think? We'll come back, kind of see what's going on, how your progress is going in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and we'll see what's up. Does that sound good?
Yep, totally.
Okay, awesome. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in to A Plus Parents. Jeremiah, thanks for joining us today. It's been great to hang out with you. And you guys, we'll see you all next time on A Plus Parents. Thanks, everyone. Bye.